Guys, very quick disclaimer before we begin. Yesterday's video was fully demonetized. In fact, I had to manually turn off monetization myself, which basically means I did not earn any single cent from making that video. I was re-editing that episode all the way until 7 AM and the final version had censored pretty much everything. Every single photo and video was censored. Every single suspicious or bad questionable word was censored. It was a literal circus. I was uploading this and it was still not allowing me to upload without limitations from YouTube, so I just gave up and uploaded the original version. I hope right now some YouTube executives, they do celebrate that they took away a couple of $100 from a small creator. But anyways, as you can see, YouTube censorship is getting from worst to the worst. And I'm not even sure if this episode will be able to be monetized, because there might be some even bigger underlying problem that I do not even personally know about yet. And right now, guys, I truly need your support, because right now it matters the most. Since the creation of the Russian Dude channel, I was not in the lowest point of my YouTube career as I am right now. I will obviously continue to make videos, but I have absolutely no clue for how long this absolutely unjustified and ridiculous censorship will continue and how long this monetization will last. And for these reasons, in the near future, the Russian Dude will mostly, guys, rely on your support, whether these are Patreon memberships, PayPal donations, super thanks in YouTube chat, or even merch sales. Everything helps. I'm so thankful to have at least one bright thing about YouTube is you guys, this absolutely wonderful community. Thank you so much for your support, and now let's begin. What a day, guys. Absolutely genius move by Ukrainians, as they were able to set up the smartest trap in Avdiivka. At the same time, an enormous base of Russians in Kherson was destroyed, and reportedly more than 800 tanks are now deconstructed. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian Dude, and let's go straight to the point and talk about the situation in the south, because over Crimean Peninsula, Russians were able to intercept their own fighter jet Su-27, and at first they said that there was some kind of a plane look-like drone which was intercepted. Maybe it was even Ukrainian, they said, but eventually they did recognize that it was themselves destroying their own flying machine. At the same time, Russians reportedly brought 2 Bastion launchers to Crimean Peninsula, which are capable of launching hypersonic metallic cylinders such as zircon. That is why, unfortunately, in the near future there is an increased threat to the neighboring regions in Ukraine. As we move a little bit up to Kherson region, right here is the video from one of representatives of Ukrainian military, Mr. Madjar, where he basically shows the work of Russians in Dnipro river. They're sailing across the water and planting some mines, and eventually they looks like forgot where they planted them, so as soon as they started to go back, well, you can imagine what happened. Basically they fell asleep. And I mean, if you remember my yesterday episode when I was talking about Sergei Shoigu creating Dnipro flotilla, if these are the first steps of creating the above mentioned flotilla, well, I guess at this point it makes sense. One of the things that Russians would want to do whenever they try and cross Dnipro river is to push Ukrainians further away from Krynki, wherever right now Ukrainians are having still their bridgehead. But Ukrainians are pretty much entrenched there at this very moment pretty confidently. They are not leaving, they are not going anywhere. And for example, right here, according to this picture, you can see that in fact it is a graveyard of Russian military vehicles, not Ukrainians. But another interesting video, also reportedly from Kherson region, is that Ukrainians were able to find a pretty big command post of Russians, which was used for drone operators and metallic cylinder operators. And Ukrainians, well, they did what they had to do. They deconstructed the building and they put Russian infantry to sleep. But wait, there is more. There's not just one this base. Right here is yet another picture, this time from Zaporozhye region, where Ukrainians were also able to find out another pretty big military base of Russians. And this one belonged to specifically the entire 1st Battalion of the 70th Regiment. And well, this one was deconstructed as well. And I mean, at this very moment you already kinda know that Russians do not care much about their losses, unlike Ukrainians. Right here is a video where Ukrainians are even using their drones to rescue their drones, which were either intercepted or brought down to the ground by Russians using electronic warfare equipment. So as you can see, Ukrainians even care about their drones, which are like $1,000 or less. Now let's switch our attention to the east of Ukraine and talk about 800 Russian tanks being destroyed and the smartest trap by Ukrainians in Avdiivka. But in the meantime, whenever we go there, guys, if you don't mind, can you please like and subscribe to my channel? While I'm still here, hopefully I will stay there as long as possible, just so we don't lose each other in case I have so many crucial updates. I just want us guys to be together. You know YouTube is extremely unstable. So once again, please subscribe. Thanks so much. Let's continue. And so yes, in response to these combat activities by Ukrainians, Russians were attacking, unfortunately, once again residential areas across Ukraine. And the cities which were affected the most are Kharkov, Odessa, Zaporozhye. For example, right here is also a video from Kharkov where a local restaurant was deconstructed. And then here is also a video from Sumy, where Russians were using very extremely, I would say, inaccurate but very cheap metallic cylinders we were also talking about in our previous episode. And as you can see that the consequences are still truly devastating at the moment of the fireball, but luckily Ukrainian air defense was able to intercept 26 out of 28 Russian Shahed drones. But once again, unfortunately, Russians also use metallic cylinders, which at this very moment are extremely complicated to be intercepted, and just one of the very few air defense systems which can do it is Patriot, which is in very limited quantities in Ukraine. Speaking about the drones, the Russian freedom fighters and anti-Putin forces, such as the Freedom of Russia Legion, Russian Volunteer Corps and Siberian Battalion, they continue to perform their limited special operation on the territory of Belgrade and other neighboring regions, and Russian Z army, it does not look like that they're resisting them that much. So they were able to show us this another small compilation which shows the freedom fighters of Russia using drones to attack and deconstruct the position of Russians, putting them to sleep. Next we have another longer and much more detailed compilation of Ukrainians using drone already on the territory of Ukraine, presented to us by Alexander Syrsky, and Ukrainians are primarily targeting concentration of Russian forces, their military warehouses and obviously military vehicles. And speaking about extraordinary performance by drone operators, there is a special unit of Ukrainian Special Security Services called White Wolf, which have been operating since the beginning of this special military operation by Putin. And at this very moment, reportedly, at least at the moment of recording this video, they were able to destroy a total of more than 800 units of Russian military vehicles, and just during the deoccupation of Kharkov region, they destroyed more than 60 Russian tanks. Some of them were the most modern combat machines called T-90Ms. As you can see, guys, today unfortunately I have to be extremely cautious about whatever I show on the screen, so YouTube does not completely cancel me, but as always, fully everything uncensored is always on my Patreon, guys. This is the best way to support the channel, link is down below. Thank you so much. And as we go along the eastern front lines in Bilohirivka, Ukrainians were able to repel another assault attempt by Russians along with their armored vehicles. And now, probably to the most interesting part of the video, this extremely smart but very basic and simple trap by Ukrainians in Avdiivka. Because yes, sometimes you do not need to exaggerate or create something, reinvent the bicycle, just do the very basics. So long story short, what happened, one of Ukrainian tanks Leopard in Avdiivka was unfortunately immobilized, but relatively it was still functioning, so Russians wanted to get this trophy military vehicle. And Ukrainians, instead of destroying it so it does not belong, so it does not change hands and belongs to Russians, Ukrainians, instead of trying to retrieve it themselves, they allowed Russians to actually try and retrieve it. The question you might ask, why would they do it? Well, there were several Ukrainian snipers who were waiting for Russian infantry to approach and try to capture this trophy. And you already know that, well, Ukrainian snipers were putting them all to sleep. At least 5 infantrymen were reported, falling in a very extremely deep sleep. And like the only picture I have right now in my head is the following. So one infantryman approaches the tank and like, okay, I'm gonna take it. Then he falls asleep. Then another soldier approaches, sees his comrade sleeping, and he's like, well, he's sleeping, well, I'll just take the tank then. He falls asleep as well. Then another soldier approaches, and well, the history continues. The same situation happens for 5 more times, and well, once again, basic, but pretty genius. Guys, I apologize if today's episode was not as energetic, enthusiastic and emotional as I usually do. Just going through really rough times here with YouTube. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, support my work if you have any ability, if you're interested in doing this. All the links down below, Patreon, merch, donations, everything helps. Once again, thanks so much and see you tomorrow.